Hello everyone, my name is Paul Third, and this week I want to discuss with you, my audience, my experience of creating a multi-purpose music studio. Now, I am very fortunate, right? Let's just get this sorted, right? My experience is going to be very different to many of you watching this. One, because, I do YouTube and I can get a lot of shit for free. So, over the past year and a half, I've had to do certain videos to get certain pieces of gear for my studio. So, my experience is going to be very different to yours, and also add to the fact that I am in a small village in Scotland and I have a 4-room studio with a massive entranceway. Now, obviously, there's a downside to where I am because I am in Scotland, which isn't, the most competitive place. And, there isn't actually that many artists that I see coming through compared to, if you're in London. If you're in London, you could have a very small studio and be ram-packed and be very busy. But obviously, if you're in a competitive place, it's going to cost you more. And if you need to settle, you're probably going to have to settle for, maybe a 1-room place that's maybe, a studio in, a big place that's got caters for tons of studios. You might need to share your studio like what Ed does. Now, I'm very fortunate that I don't have to do that. So, my mileage is going to vary. When it comes to, the idea of creating a studio in this current climate, when we've got AI and, this whole spike stent thing coming out and AI becoming more prevalent, it is a worry for me. And, many people have said to me, Paul, I think it's pointless. You spending all this money on an Atmos room and, live room, especially in Scotland, where, there aren't many artists coming through compared to, busy places like England and stuff like that. But the way I see it is, if you don't try, you'll never know. And sometimes that's got to be the notion that you've got to give yourself. That's got to be like what kind of keeps you going is, fuck it, just like throw it at the wall and see if it sticks, which is what I'm doing. I'll show you a little clip, right? All the rooms needed painted, all the floors needed done. A lot of work, to make them all acoustically treated and blah, 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 blah. But I got there. But it was an expense. The floors was an expense. Again, look, just again, a couch. I can't remember. It's that long ago. What did I pay for that? Like £250, £300 or whatever, £250 for a couch. Just for a fucking couch. And then the desk, I had to pay for the desk and all the acoustical treatment I had to do it myself. Now, the rooms themselves are going to be the biggest bollock for you. If you want to do it right, you want to do it as a profession. This room could be better, but it's a tracking room. And I've had to come to many compromises where I wanted this to be a stereo mixing room and I wanted it to be a tracking room and have the Atmos room and even do some mixing in the live room. I was thinking about renting that out, and I added too many arms and legs onto things. And, I think it's easy to do that. You get excited and you have all these ideas. But what I'm going to tell you is it's very easy to run out of money. And that's why this has taken me so bloody long. Now, I could have got it open earlier, but my issue is that I get distracted. And I'm a perfectionist. Wow, Paul Third, perfectionist? Wow. In many ways, I'm not. But in certain things, I am. And you can imagine with the studio, yeah. I did go OTT as soon as I got Room EQ Wizard. That was the fucking devil. I wasted weeks of my life moving stuff like this, even this control room. It's just a tracking room, and I knew I shouldn't have cared that much. But I was like, no, it needs to measure better, and I ended up getting ceiling clouds and loads of panels, and then I ended up getting again GIK bass traps that are behind me, and I was thinking about the desk, and I was went through the whole speaker journey and different speakers. Honestly, I should have never done the speaker journey. Because I was like, yeah, I need to get the right speakers in and open the studio and it's all good to go and I could just work. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I wasted a few months mixing on different speakers and stuff and then changing this room about, and which is important because, if you've watched the Working Audio Tools podcast, there's a great episode with Yesko from Acoustics Insider, and it talks all about the things that me and Ed have picked up. This whole studio took so long because I couldn't finish one room at one time. And if you are going to do this and do multi-purpose studio with multiple rooms, take it a room at a time. It must be my brain, man. My brain just goes on different rabbit holes. And when I'm bored or I feel like I'm frustrated or I want to do something else, I just go away and do it. That added months onto this. Because if I would have just finished this and took the time to get this right and finish it and go, that's it done, moved on to another room, trust me, it would have got done quicker. But I didn't. I half-arsed this, put stuff in here, moved into the live room, Yeah, I did. Moved into the live room, and then that was when I had to make all DIY panels. The DIY panels were an absolute pain in the bollocks because I'm shite at DIY, but I refused to pay all that money for GIK. Like, I had to get all the wood, you know, and cut it all myself, and this studio was a riot. And even the Atmos room in itself, it was months to get that sorted because I didn't have the money to pay for the brackets for the height speakers. And we had to make that all DIY, and we had no clue what we were doing. And it took me and my dad ages to get to a point. And the time as well, because I do work full time. That's another thing. You know, I've got 2 kids, a family, and a full-time fucking job, YouTube and podcast. Honestly, Ed's always saying to me, Paul, how the fuck do you do it? How do you manage to, like, do all this? Like, my wife is an absolute saint, that's why. So I'm very, very fortunate that my wife's very patient and my kids understand. My kids know I'm autistic and this is my, you know, my obsession. So, you know, just be mindful that there's a lot of stuff involved in audio, you know, if you want to do this professionally. And that's what I've found is the hardest. When you think that you've got it done to a certain standard, you'll speak to certain people and they'll be like, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you got this? Have you got that right? You know, and then we're just talking aesthetically and practically from an acoustical point of view. Getting everything working, you know, for a professional environment is another thing. You know, that's why I made the video talking about, you know, why I ditched the Apollo X6, because it was not functioning for me. It was not working well with my Windows system. So I moved to the Evo system, you know what I mean? So I've got the Evo 16 with the SP8 there and the SP8 in the live room, you know, and I had to find a way of how do I get audio from the live room to the control room. And, you know, and I solved all that. There's a video. I'll leave anything that, like, I've done with the studio, I'll leave and links in the description. So you can kind of get an idea kind of my journey so far. But, you know, even thinking about the 500 series, you know, tracking analog. So, you know, I got a good the best 1073 clone I think I could get for the money, which is the Golden Age Premier one. It's got the kernel transformers in it. I've got a few Bart Herc, you know, channel strips and stuff. And that's really, I think, that all I'm going to need. And by the way, I'm not telling you this to show off or shit like that. The reason I'm telling you this is because you don't realise how much things can crop up and how much your budget just jumps up all the time. These were all things that I was like, oh yeah, I want to need that and I won't need that. I've got really bad RF interference and there's a neighbour and I didn't know it when I took this. It's got the huge fucking mast. It's massive and I can't go unbalanced in this room. Honestly, there's been times with certain mics, I cannot use certain mics, especially mics that have got a really low sensitivity, like say the OC818. It's really frustrating because when I use that, I need a lot of gain, and there's the odd times it's intermittent where I get this. It's almost like outside noise, so you can hear the wind and shit outside, and it's intermittent, and it was driving me around the bend. So I then had to, you know, choose kind of when I've got mics like this, for example, that's, you know, has a high sensitivity, doesn't need a lot of gain to it. You don't pick that up. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got ferrite beads on this and everywhere. Honestly, I put ferrite beads everywhere because my good friend MSM was like, try that out, that might work. It fucking didn't work. I even got a Shure. Fuck, I've got to send it back to get a refund. Fuck, I forgot about that shit. But I got a Shure RF, you know, and like filter thing that goes in between like the XLRs. That didn't fucking work either. So again, that was an issue I didn't know I was going to need to work in. I had to throw money at that. And the firming, it doesn't really help the RF interference. But it was better than having all the extensions I had. You know what I mean? I was like, oh yeah, I'll just do extensions. It was a nightmare and it's a risk. Especially when all your audio equipment, you should be, you know, feeding it with, you know, the best power possible. So I've got the firming in there and that powers everything in here. And it's a lot tidier. And that's another thing, is being tidy and thinking about, you know, cable tidies and, you know, making everything work. So, you know, when a client comes in, it doesn't look like a dog's arse. Because you've got to look professional. You know, and that is another thing, you know, aesthetically, Jesus Christ, the amount of money I've spent on paint and accessories, that's what my wife's been at. And, you know, honestly, even I had to paint the toilet. I had to paint the toilet, get the fucking toilet plasterboarded, paint all the outside, because she was like, Paul, when people come in, it has to look a certain way. And even Ed Thorne, he was like, yeah, like many people judge, you know, a studio on its bathroom and stuff like that. I was like, fuck off. Like in the live room, I tried to save money and I painted the entire floor white. What a disaster that was. A stupid idea. Just gathered dust. Ended up buying vinyl. That was like fuck knows, like 200, 250 or whatever. Had to fit that myself because I didn't have the money to pay a fitter. I had to do all the beading, all the scotias myself, paint that again. Even the sign, the outside sign cost me 350 quid. It's all these things that build up. You've got to then think about marketing yourself. I then had to set myself up with Squarespace and then set myself up a website, you know, and then you have to think of pricing. God, I'm still like wondering about pricing. Pricing is so unbelievably difficult because you kind of look at, you know, what the guys in London and competitive places are doing. I've had to look at where other people in my area are doing, and shit goes cheap. Thankfully, there's not many studios running now. Many people have tried and kind of failed. And there's a lot of bands that don't go with certain people. So I'm fortunate that way. But, you know, you got to think about networking. Like, I'm probably going to need, and remember, I'm autistic and I fucking hate socializing. I'm probably going to have to go to like 1 gig a month, maybe, no, what, fuck it, probably a gig a fortnight, and like go around local bands and get business cards made and, you know, just start handing them out and having conversations with artists. You know, I'm trying to network with a lot of producers right now. I know quite a few producers in Scotland, and, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, making trips. And again, it's another investment. Got to invest time and money to maybe take days off at work to visit people's studios just to have a chat with them, and, you know, hopefully they can send work my way and I can do the mixing and stuff. And I've honestly given myself an absolute bollock trying to do recording, mixing and Atmos. And especially the more that you do and the more rooms that you do and you want to do them to a professional standard, it just is never ending. And you just feel like, I can't get this open because of that. I can't get that open because of that. Something's cropped up. Oh, I didn't realise I needed that. Fucking cables. Honestly, I didn't realise there was that many audio cables until I got the studio. Even the Atmos room, thinking about, you know, all the cabling, how I was going to get all the cables to Aurea. And I knew Aurea was coming, but I was like, right, I have to get all the cables in and tidy all that up. And the power situation, I had to get my dad in. I had to get my, like, if you've never watched it, watch the Atmos video. I'll leave a link in the description about the build of that and things to think about. You know, I had to get like the power situation done. I had to get my dad to put in certain sockets so we had enough power to power all these fucking 12 speakers. Honestly, that Atmos room, Jesus, the fact I've got it done, sometimes I just sit in it and go, I never ever want to think about this room ever again. I just want to use it. Even the fact I put a projector in and stuff, had to build shelves and stuff because I thought I was going to make certain things work and didn't look right, and to build custom shelves. It's just never ending. And this May, I've put you off building a studio. And that's why, you know, I do suggest that if you do have the budget, get people in. Just get some, you know, painter and decorator, some acousticians, some DIY guys in and be like, right, could you build that, and that? And if you've got the money for acoustic stuff, just buy them. Just buy the GIK stuff. Just buy it. They're pre-made. But, you know, as much of a nightmare as this studio has been, I have learned so much, and it's really made me a better engineer. And as soon as it opens and I start working with clients more, it'll make me an even better engineer. There are going to be times, you know, things are going to go wrong, and I'm going to learn from those situations. But hopefully, you know, when I open it, it's going to be slow, and I understand that. But hopefully over time, if I, you know, do a good job and I'm professional and I work well with clients, I can make this work. But yeah, I'd say like certain things that you don't want to do is don't be impatient, because if you are impatient and you open it too early and things aren't right, it'll only hurt your business. I know it's hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be grueling. It's going to cost a shit ton. It's going to take way longer than you think. And you might build all this and you just don't get the clients. And, you know, and that's why you've got to think about the personable side. That's why I suggest that you watch the Working Audio Tools podcast that me and Ed Thorne do, and listen to all of the interviews that we do with industry professionals, because we talk a lot about the psychology and the, you know, the mentality of working with clients, because it's not easy working with clients. It's not. And if you get that right early days, you'd be surprised at how much they can kind of forgive the other stuff. You know, but being professional, having a professional studio, a room that's well treated, and, you know, the equipment works and it's consistent and doesn't let you down. It's all important. I just keep on talking. I need to stop. Okay, I'm stopping. I'm stopping now. I need to stop. Okay. My name's Paul Third, and I'll see you whenever I see you.